Hello and God bless you. This is Bishop Kenyon. Today I want to talk to you about the anatomy of prayer. The anatomy of prayer. And I believe that once we understand this, it will greatly impact the time that you spend with God. In Luke the 11th chapter, the disciples asked Jesus to teach them to pray. Not cast out devils, not heal the sick or raise the dead. Those are extremely important. But they came to understand that there was a correlation between the time that Jesus spent with God in private and the power he demonstrated in public. Now, what is interesting here is that Jesus did not teach them how to pray, but instead gave them a framework for prayer. Because Jesus knew that to learn to pray, you have to pray. In other words, you learn by praying. You are taught to pray in the classroom of the closet. In an effort to help you understand prayer and how to pray, I'm going to share some insights that I pray will be a real blessing to you. Now, the act of praying is a combination of the things that occur during the time that you spend with God. Now, the operative word here is combination, because there are many pieces. I want you to listen to what I'm saying here. There are many pieces to the prayer puzzle. Prayer involves petition, it involves silence, it involves thanksgiving, worship, supplication, intercession. But let's look at it in the natural. During the course of your conversation with a person, there are many components that comprise the time you spend with that person. During the conversation, there is silence, there is asking, there is celebration. The point is that during the time you spend with them, there are a number of things that collectively constitute the conversation with this person. Now, likewise, when you spend time with God, it's multifaceted. You must be careful that it doesn't become simply an empty ritual that is void of any real communion and power, because you focus on one part without realizing its relationship to the whole. The goal of the whole is intimacy with God. Now, each of these prayer components may happen at different times when you're with God, because each carries both similarities and differences. But don't be guilty of trying to make a part fit during a time when it doesn't. Here's what I mean. Sometimes when you begin your time with God, the spirit of thanksgiving is really prevalent in your spirit. So you offer thanksgiving, but offer thanksgiving and don't feel like you must petition first or be silent first. Let each time that you spend with God determine how you spend it. The main thing is to spend time with Him, unhurried time with God. Now, I emphasize unhurried because hurry is the enemy of intimacy. Did you hear what I said? Hurry is the enemy of intimacy. Now, before I go any further, let me say this. During the time that we spend with God, you must engage the mind to think on God and realize that He is present. By faith, you must know that He is present and listening to you. In the natural, when you talk to someone, you can perceive their presence with your senses. You can see them, you can hear them, you can touch them. But when you pray, you got to know by faith that God hears you. Whether you can perceive His presence or not, you must know that God is present. He is closer than near. He is here with you. Now, there's a dual aspect of presence. He is present with you on the one hand, but you must be present with Him on the other. What I mean by that is you must be there in the moment with God, emotionally and mentally there. You see, the mind can wander away from God with the speed of a 2-year-old on caffeine, or it can move toward God with the speed of a snail in slow motion. So it's important that during your prayer time, you strive to focus on God. Here's a quote that I love. The battle of prayer is against two things in the earth: wandering thoughts and lack of intimacy with God's character as revealed in His words. Neither can be cured at once, but can be cured by discipline. That comes from Oswald Chambers. The mind can be, your mind, my mind, can so easily wander away from God while we're praying. And sometimes you don't even know you've drifted until you catch yourself and you ask, what am I thinking? Your body can be kneeling, but your mind is running toward bills you owe, what someone said, or perhaps a project that you're working on. Our minds will run in the direction of whatever is the priority at that moment. And there are other times when you have no idea why you're thinking about some of the things that just come up in your mind. But it's a blessing indeed to be able to stay in the moment with God. You cannot honor God with your mouth when your mind doesn't even know what it said because your mind was somewhere else. There have been times, personal testimony, there have been times that I knelt down to pray and my mind had drifted so far from God in prayer that when I came to myself, I felt like a heathen. I felt like I wasn't even saved. I was on my knees, but when my mind drifted toward a football game or what happened or something that appeared likely to happen, my body was in the closet, but my mind had left. You can feel so unspiritual, but listen, this is all a part of the process of learning to focus and pray. So just stay on point and keep praying. No matter how many times you drift, keep coming back because it does get better. As you go, so you grow. A kneeling body must have a kneeling mind to be in the moment with God. Brothers and sisters, whether you pray for 15 minutes or an hour, be there. Prayer, remember, is a body that is composed of many parts, and these parts make up the whole of the time you devote to God. Whatever you do, spend time with God. Whether you feel like it or not, spend time with God, and you will learn to pray